He handed me divorce papers while I lay on the couch with a fever so high I couldn't lift my head. No apology, no emotion, just a folder and a whisper. You won't fight this. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. First, let's go back to the beginning. The air in the living room was thick, not with warmth or comfort, but with that strange, heavy silence that only comes when something breaks and no one wants to admit it. The bitter taste of cold lemon tea lingered in my mouth, untouched on the side table. My body throbbed with fever, every muscle sore like I'd run a marathon in my sleep. The cough came in waves, shallow and dry. Viral pneumonia, they'd said. Rest, hydration, no stress. Right. I was swaddled in a tangle of damp blankets, still in the same cotton pajamas I'd worn for 2 days. The world beyond the couch barely existed. Days blurred together, and the only rhythm I could rely on was the quiet creak of the hallway floorboards when Daniel passed through without a word. The man I married, a man who once drove through a snowstorm just to bring me my favorite soup when I had a head cold, now avoided eye contact like it might infect him. That morning, light slipped through the blinds in dull streaks. My skin was clammy, my lips cracked, and I was barely lucid when I heard the rustle. I opened my eyes and saw him, Daniel, standing over me. No tray, no glass of water, just a manila folder in his left hand and that expression I didn't recognize anymore. Distant, tired, not with concern, but with detachment, like he was delivering mail. You should probably look at this, he said, his voice flat as paper. I blinked, disoriented. My fingers moved instinctively, reaching for the folder even as tremors ran through them. The latch clicked open with a finality that made my breath catch. Inside, the raw, clinical language of betrayal dressed in legal formality. Terms, assets, irreconcilable differences. Divorce. I looked up at him, but he was already turning away. I think it's just time, he said over his shoulder. I can't keep doing this. Doing what, Daniel? Living with a wife who got sick? Being mildly inconvenienced? He walked out of the room like a man clocking out of a shift. Later, I heard him speaking quietly in the hallway. But the walls in that house were thin. It's done, he said. She won't fight. He was so sure. And at that moment, maybe he was right. I couldn't fight, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. But I would remember everything. The worst part wasn't the fever or the isolation. It was the erasure, the quiet, systematic unraveling of my life by the person who once promised to protect it. In the span of 48 hours, Daniel did more than serve me divorce papers. He started deleting me. My credit card was declined when I tried to order soup online. The electricity bill showed a new name in the notification email. His. When I opened our shared account out of habit, all I saw was a zero balance and a polite note about account changes. I wasn't being divorced. I was being ghosted out of my own marriage, erased from the infrastructure of the life we built. He wasn't just leaving. He was making sure I couldn't stand up after he walked away. But Daniel had underestimated one thing. Emily, my cousin, 33, sharp as cut glass and twice as cold when provoked. She'd once talked a judge into reversing a ruling over a coffee break. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks, but when I texted her, Daniel filed. While I was sick. Can you help? There wasn't even a pause. 2 hours later, she walked through my front door with a canvas grocery bag and fire in her eyes. Her hair was pulled into a no-nonsense bun, heels clicking like war drums against the hardwood floor. She didn't ask what happened. She already knew. She made me soup first. Real soup, not the packaged kind. Set up a humidifier, adjusted my pillows. Then, after I fell into a brief sleep, she sat down at Daniel's desk. His laptop was still there, still open, still logged in. And Emily? Emily had no boundaries when justice was on the line. When I woke, she didn't say anything at first. She just handed me her phone with a gallery of screenshots. Emails. Dozens of them. Wire transfers from our joint account to a private one titled Future Fund. Hotel confirmations in New Orleans. Reservations for 2. Flights booked months in advance. And then the final punch. A thread with a woman named Sabrina, full of messages that made my stomach knot. She's too delicate, always sick. I need a woman who can run with me. So that was the plan. Strip me of my dignity, my money, my security, and disappear, hand in hand with someone stronger. But he miscalculated. I might have been weak. I might have been sick. But I wasn't stupid, and I wasn't alone anymore. It was just after 7 a.m. when the banging started. Not a knock. A pounding, desperate and loud, like a man trying to break in or break down. The walls trembled. So did the windows. But not me. I was sitting upright in the kitchen, the taste of black coffee bitter on my tongue. I hadn't had coffee in weeks. My body still ached, and my breath caught every now and then, but I was on my feet. That alone was a victory. Emily was already moving. She didn't flinch at the noise. She adjusted her blouse, smoothed her blazer, courtroom habits, and went to the door. Her face was blank, not cold, just controlled. She opened it like she had all the time in the world. And there he was. Daniel. Hair uncombed, shirt wrinkled, eyes wild, panic written across every inch of his once polished face. The man who'd once prided himself on composure now looked like he'd aged a decade in 3 days. When he saw Emily, he froze. "You," he muttered. "Why are you here?" She smiled, a thin, victorious smile with no warmth behind it. "Because you left your laptop open, and I know everything. The transfers, the emails, the woman, the condo. It's all going to the court." Daniel's face changed like a storm front passing through. Confusion to realization, realization to dread. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask why Emily was in our home. He asked, "Did you go through my email?" "No," Emily said calmly. "You left it logged in. That's not hacking, that's just stupidity. And yes, we documented everything, including the offer you made to sell the condo before the divorce finalized." Color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. I stepped forward then. His head whipped around, and for a second he looked stunned. I was standing holding the wall, still pale, still sick, but I was upright. My voice was steady. "You'll lose a lot more than that," I said. He stepped toward me, hands raised, the old fake warmth returning like a reflex. "Aaron, I didn't mean for it to happen this way." I panicked. "Let's just talk." I stepped back. My eyes didn't waver. "No, Daniel. You talked 3 days ago. You made a choice. You left me broken on a couch, thinking I'd fade quietly. But now I'm awake. And this time, I'm filing." His mouth opened and closed, words scrambling for coherence. Nothing came out. And in that silence, I saw the truth. He wasn't sorry. He was scared. And that was something I'd never seen on him before. It came in a plain white envelope, no return address, just my name written in a familiar slant. A slant I used to recognize on birthday cards and notes tucked into my suitcase. I stared at it for a long time before opening it, fingers hesitant not from sentiment, but from the quiet finality of knowing that nothing inside could matter anymore. 8 pages. Handwritten. Bleeding ink and bleeding guilt. The first lines tried to sound humble, as if Daniel had suddenly discovered remorse in the rubble he left behind. He wrote about fear, about pressure, about how he panicked and didn't know how to stay when I got sick. He mentioned Sabrina, called it a mistake, a distraction, something I never meant to turn real. I stopped reading after page 2. Not because it hurt, because it didn't. By the time his letter arrived, the world he built on control and calculation had already crumbled. The university had launched an ethics review once Emily submitted the documentation. Quiet whispers in the faculty lounge turned into formal HR interviews. His tenure was under review. His accounts were frozen pending a forensic audit. Every carefully hidden move, the financial shell game, the early property listings, the transferred funds, were now under a microscope. And I had no reason to look away. Emily had taken care of the rest. She helped me file the restraining order, ensured the court froze our marital assets, and navigated every hearing like she was born for it. I followed each step, breath by breath, until the last signature was filed and the house, our house, was no longer mine. But I didn't mourn it, because I'd already found something better. A 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town, all glass and morning light, quiet floors, new furniture, a space that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. I set up a workspace near the window and launched my freelance consulting, slowly at first, but steady. Every morning I sit down at my desk and see the framed sentence from his letter. "I never thought you'd have the strength to leave." He thought he knew me. He thought he had timed everything perfectly, that I'd be too sick, too small, too broken to fight. He never imagined that his betrayal would be the very thing to build my spine. And now? His words are sealed behind glass, just like the door I'll never open again.